Why don't you enjoy being around people the way you once did? If that question stirred something inside you, you're not alone. As the years pass, many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond begin stepping back from the social circles they once loved. It's not about bitterness, and it's not because they've stopped caring. It's because something deeper has shifted. And more often than not, that shift is a result of wisdom, not weakness. In this video, we're diving into 6 heartfelt, often unspoken reasons why you might now avoid others, even if you used to thrive in crowds. These aren't guesses. Each one speaks to real, lived experience. Some may surprise you. Others might hit so close to home that you feel seen in a way you haven't in a long time. But by the end, you'll have a better understanding of yourself, and maybe even a little more grace for the quiet distance you've chosen. Let's begin. First reason, the weight of past hurts. As we live longer, we gather more than just memories. We collect wounds. Some are small, tiny fights that were quickly forgotten, brief falling outs that healed. But others cut deep, trust broken, feelings dismissed, times when you opened your heart only to have it bruised. As we grow older, these old pains start speaking louder. We become more careful about who we let close, not because we're angry, but because we've learned that not everyone has earned the right to our time and energy. Take Mary, age 79. She used to throw dinner parties every weekend without fail. Her home buzzed with laughter, food, and happy voices. But things changed slowly. One friend disappeared when Mary's husband died. Another shared her private struggles as gossip. It wasn't one big betrayal, just many small heartbreaks adding up over time. These days, Mary finds more peace in her own company than in forced gatherings. Not because she dislikes people, but because she values her calm more than keeping up appearances. As we age, we build a kind of quiet armor. Not a wall, but a shield shaped by life experience. It doesn't always feel good to need this protection, but it often feels necessary. When you've lived long enough to see how easily people can hurt you or vanish from your life, you naturally guard your heart more carefully. This isn't about growing cold, it's about growing smart. Many older adults have given so much love, offered endless support, and sometimes been hurt without warning. This pattern teaches you to slow down, to think twice, and to step back when something doesn't feel right. You start noticing not just what people say, but how you feel after they leave. Experts call this relationship tiredness, when being with certain people drains you more than it fills you up. It's especially common among those who've been through emotional hard times, and there's no shame in that feeling at all. It simply means you've lived deeply. You've seen what people can bring, both kindness and hurt. So when you now choose some distance over closeness, it's not because you're bitter. It's because you understand yourself better. You know that your heart, at this point in life, is something precious, and not everyone deserves access to it anymore. Second big reason, craving peace instead of empty talk. When you were younger, you probably sat through lots of shallow conversations, chit-chat about nothing, gossip, or words just meant to fill silence. But as you get older, your patience for that kind of talk starts to wear thin. It's not that you've started disliking people, it's that you've discovered how healing quiet can be. Silence no longer feels awkward, it feels like a gift. And once you've tasted that kind of peaceful quiet, it's hard to trade it for meaningless words. Think about Henry, a 76-year-old who used to sell cars for a living. He could talk to anyone, warm and friendly, keeping conversations flowing for hours. These days, though, he avoids gatherings that need constant small talk. He often skips big family get-togethers unless he truly feels up to it. When someone asks why, he simply says, "I'm done talking just to fill the air." He's not looking for loneliness. He's looking for meaning, honesty, and quiet that doesn't demand a performance. As we get older, our emotional energy becomes more precious. The need to impress others falls away. The pressure to prove ourselves fades out. What rises up instead is a hunger for what's real. We want talks that matter, honest, straightforward, and grounded in truth. If we can't find those deep connections, many of us would rather spend the evening with a good book and a warm drink than surround ourselves with voices that leave us feeling more alone than before we came. This isn't about being distant. It's about being choosy. There's a quiet strength in deciding where you spend your time and who you let into your space. You've earned the right to protect your peace, save your strength, and say no without feeling guilty. That's not pulling away, that's growing wiser. The more we embrace this clarity, the more we understand that richness in life doesn't come from how many people surround us. Sometimes a single heartfelt talk, or even a peaceful evening alone, brings more joy than hours of forced chit-chat. So if you've been stepping back lately, turning away from empty talk, skipping the crowded events, remember this: you're not shutting down. You're waking up, clear about what lifts you up, clear about what wears you out. And that clarity is one of the greatest gifts of growing older. If you're still watching and finding these insights touching your heart, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, I suggest you do it now and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us keep making content that speaks to your soul. Now let's keep going. Third reason, feeling like people just don't get you anymore. There comes a moment when you look around and notice the world has shifted, and so have you. The slang sounds strange. The beliefs are different. The pace of everything, talks, expectations, even friendships, feels almost too much. And in all this change, you might start feeling invisible, unheard, or simply disconnected. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because people no longer take time to see where you're coming from. Take Sarah, age 79, a former school teacher. She used to love spending time with her younger family members, telling stories from her life, how she raised 5 children, ran a household, worked full-time, and still found time to help others. But now she says they rarely ask questions. When she speaks, they smile politely and check their phones. It's not on purpose. It's just a disconnect. And over time, that small gap starts to feel like a huge canyon. This is one of the quieter reasons people start pulling away. It's not that they don't care. It's that being in places where no one truly hears you starts to feel exhausting. Slowly, you begin to choose your own company, not because it's better, but because it's safer. You know how deeply you feel, how much you've lived, how much wisdom you carry. But when others stop seeing it, it becomes easier to stop offering it. This kind of loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling misunderstood. You might be in a room full of people but feel completely unseen. You share a thought and they change the subject. You express a worry and they call you dramatic. After enough of these moments, you start to think that maybe silence is simpler. Experts call this emotional brushing off, when your feelings are quietly dismissed or made small. It affects many older adults more than we talk about, because it doesn't happen through clear rejection. It happens through tiny moments that pile up over time. But here's the truth. Your thoughts still matter. Your voice still holds value. Just because others fail to hear you doesn't mean you've lost worth. It simply means you've outgrown certain conversations. And that's okay. Sometimes the answer isn't forcing your way into their world. It's finding people or places where you don't have to explain yourself so much. Where simply being there is enough. Where someone truly listens, not just waits for their turn to talk. And when those people are hard to find, it's natural to step back, save your energy, and find peace in your own company. Because in that space, you are completely known by yourself. And that is never something to feel bad about. Fourth reason, fear of being a burden. As we age, a quiet worry starts to grow. A worry not just about getting sick or even dying, but about becoming a weight on the shoulders of people we love. It's a fear that's hard to put into words, but impossible to shake off. You don't want to mess up someone's busy schedule. You don't want to ask for help, even when you truly need it. And so you go quiet. You stay home. You keep your distance. This isn't about being stubborn. It's about caring. It's about self-respect. It's about not wanting people to see you as a chore or a duty. You start saying no to invitations, not because you don't want to go, but because you don't want anyone going out of their way for you. You hold back your worries, not because you don't trust, but because you don't want to add to anyone's stress. And so bit by bit, your world gets smaller. Take Robert, an 84-year-old widower who once spent every weekend with his daughter's family. As his body started to betray him and walking became harder, he began turning down their invitations more often. When asked why, he said, "I don't want them changing their lives around me. They have jobs, children. I'll just be in the way." Even though his family never made him feel like a bother, the fear of becoming one outweighed his desire for togetherness. This is a strange battle many older adults face. The more you need others, the less you want to need them. The more you value connection, the more hesitant you become to reach out. Because you've spent a lifetime being strong, being the helper, being the one others leaned on, and now asking for support feels strange, maybe even uncomfortable. This fear comes from something deeply human, the wish to be loved freely, not out of duty, and when it feels like your presence might cause stress, you begin to pull away. You'd rather be by yourself than feel like someone's responsibility. But here's the truth. Those who truly love you want to be there for you. They might not always show it perfectly. They might not always get it right. But your worth isn't based on how independent you are. It's based on who you are. And if the people around you genuinely care, your needs will never be seen as a burden. They'll be seen as an honor. Still, the fear stays, and it shapes what you do. You hold back when you want to speak up. You stay home when you want to visit. You sit out when you want to join in. And over time, keeping away from people feels easier than the discomfort of needing them. If you're still watching and finding these words hitting home, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you hit that button and turn on the bell so you don't miss our videos. Your support helps us keep sharing meaningful content that speaks to your heart. Now let's continue. 5th reason, the quiet fading of old friendships. Some connections don't end with fights or goodbyes. They simply fade away. People head down different paths. Priorities change. Life slowly pulls you apart in ways you barely notice. You don't mean to drift apart, it just happens. And then one day, you realize the people who used to fill your calendar are no longer part of your daily life. It's not always painful. Sometimes it brings a strange peace, but other times it leaves behind a gentle sadness, like you've moved beyond something you once held dear. You think back on the lunches, the long talks, the shared laughs, and wonder what changed. Was it them? Was it you? Maybe it was both. Think about Helen, a 73-year-old woman who used to take weekly walks with her best friend from high school. Over time, those walks became monthly, then yearly, and eventually stopped altogether. There was no fight, no tension, just a quiet understanding that the connection had changed. Their paths had split, new interests, new routines. Helen said, "We still care about each other, but I think we've said everything we needed to say." This story is more common than many realize. Friendships built around shared seasons, raising kids, working side by side, being neighbors, often don't last when those chapters close. As you move deeper into your later years, you might find yourself surrounded by people who no longer match who you're becoming. That's not a loss. It's a kind of progress. When you start valuing your time and energy more, you naturally become more careful about who you give it to. Not because you've outgrown them, but because you understand your own needs better. And sometimes what you need is space. Space to breathe, to pause, to simply be. Old friends who once lifted you up might now feel tiring. Talks that once flowed easily might now feel forced. And instead of pushing through it, you choose space. Not from anger, but from self-respect. People often say that growing older means losing people. But what they don't often say is that sometimes the letting go is your choice, because you've realized that closeness without true connection can feel lonelier than being by yourself. So when you create distance from certain people, it's not always about avoiding others. It's about honoring the changes within yourself. You've changed, and that's something to accept, not feel sorry for. Sixth reason, the joy of being on your own. At a certain point in life, you stop chasing company and start treasuring solitude. Not from hurt, not from emptiness, but because you found something many never do, that your own presence is enough. There's a rare kind of peace that settles in when you realize you don't have to explain yourself, impress anyone, or pretend to be someone you're not. For years, you may have been constantly surrounded by people, through work, family duties, and during those times you may have barely had a moment to pause, to sit quietly, to hear your inner voice without distraction. And once you finally experience that quiet, it becomes sacred, not something to run from, but something worth protecting. Think about James, an 82-year-old man who once thrived on being social. His home was a hangout spot. His laugh was the loudest in the room. But in recent years, he finds more joy just sitting and watching birds from his porch than hosting parties. When asked if he ever feels lonely, he chuckles and says, "I've got enough memories in my head to keep me busy for days." What he's found isn't loneliness, it's peace. This shift often puzzles those around you. They worry. They might think you're pulling away because you're sad. But in reality, you're tuning into something deeper, a rhythm that's softer but richer, a life that's less noisy but more meaningful. You no longer feel the need to fill every silence, to justify every action, to be constantly available. And that's not pulling away. That's insight. It's the kind of quiet understanding that only comes after years of giving, stretching, and showing up for others. Solitude, when chosen, becomes a refuge. It's where you recover, where your thoughts grow, where your truest self can breathe freely. And the older you become, the more you understand that some of your most peaceful days don't include anyone else at all. You move at your own pace, follow your own thoughts, do what feels right. And for the first time in a long while, you feel whole, not because the world changed, but because you finally claimed your place in it. If you're still watching and finding these thoughts meaningful, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you do so and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue sharing thoughtful content that lifts your spirit. Now let's wrap up. Final thoughts. So which part today spoke to your heart? Was it the fading of old friendships or the quiet joy of solitude that now feels like home? Maybe it was the weight of emotional fatigue or that growing need to be understood without explanation. Whatever it was, know this. You're not falling apart. You're evolving. Pulling away from noise, from crowds, from the need to always be on isn't a weakness. It's your spirit finding its rhythm. You've spent a lifetime giving, showing up, and being strong. Now you're learning to choose peace, and that's not isolation. That's wisdom. If this video gave you clarity, comfort, or even a quiet nod of understanding, please comment below and tell me what resonated most. Subscribe, like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Your voice matters, and here you're never truly alone. We're walking this quieter, deeper path together, and that's something truly beautiful.